Ovaries are the female gonads, which means that they are the primary reproductive organs of the female reproductive system. Each human female has a pair of ovaries and they are situated one on either side of the uterus, behind and below the uterine tubes. Each ovary is about 4 cm long and 2 cm wide. A suspensory ligament called as utero-ovarian ligament holds each ovary at its place within the peritoneal cavity. The ovarian ligaments also anchors the ovary to the uterus. The ovarian ligament is actually a rounded cord within a broad ligament which attaches the ovary to the uterus and to the pelvic wall. Smooth muscles and connective tissues make up the ovarian ligament. Each one of these ovarian ligament attaches to the uterine end of the ovary with which it is associated. Since ovaries are endocrine glands, so they releases their secretions or hormones directly into the circulatory system, and these hormones are responsible for regulating distant target organs. Progesterone and estrogens are the hormones that are released by ovaries. These are the sex hormones that governs the early development of the female reproductive system and contribute to the menstrual cycle. An ovary consists of the numerous ovarian follicles embedded in a layer called the cortex that is present immediately beneath the ovary's surface and abundantly supplied with blood vessels. Ova begins to develop within the follicles. At ovulation, a follicle gradually appears at the surface of ovary and bursts. The ovum and fluid contents of the follicle are liberated onto the exterior of the ovary and carried into the fallopian tube by the current set up by the movement of cilia covering the fimbriae. Ovaries are homologous with testes in the males. The fallopian tubes are the first components of the three-part system of ducts within the internal genitalia of the female reproductive system. Each tube is supported by a portion of broad ligaments called the mesosalpinx. Each oviduct is about 10 to 12 cm long and consists of three coats: serous, muscular, and mucus. Each fallopian tube consists of three portions. First one is the isthmus. It is a constricted section of fallopian tube that is connected to the uterus. The second portion is ampulla or intermediate dilated portion. It curves over the ovary. And the third portion is the infundibulum, which is open to the abdomen and is surrounded by fimbriae. Fimbriae are finger-like projections which works for catching the egg cell when it comes out of the ovary. Fertilization usually occurs into the ampulla. It usually takes 5 to 6 days for ova or ovum released from an ovary to travel through the fallopian tubes up to the cavity of the uterus. Fertilization usually occurs into the ampulla. The fertilized ovum then normally is passed on to the uterus. The uterus is the second of the ducts that forms the internal genitalia of the female reproductive system. The uterus is a hollow, thick-walled, pear-shaped muscular organ located in the pelvic cavity between the bladder and rectum. The fallopian tube leads into the upper part of the uterus, one on either side. The triangular main portion of the uterus is the body. It narrows to a slight constriction known as the isthmus. The part of body between the openings of the fallopian tube is known as fundus. The cervix is the lower constricted segment of the uterus that leads to the vagina. The uterus measures about 7.5 cm in length, 5 cm in breadth at its upper part, and nearly 2.5 cm in thickness. It weighs around 30 to 40 grams, making it the largest organ of the female reproductive system. The body of the uterus consists of the three layers, the largest being the middle layer of smooth muscles that is capable of expanding. A fertilized ovum embeds itself in the uterine wall and is normally retained into the uterus as it develops. As a fertilized ovum develops into an embryo and a fetus, the uterus becomes enormously enlarged. The increase in size is partly due to the growth of pre-existing muscles and partly due to the development of new fibers. After labor, that is delivery of the baby, uterus nearly gains its usual size, weighing about 42 grams. but its cavity is larger, its vessels are tortuous, and its muscular layers are more defined. In addition, the external orifice is more marked and its edges represent one or more fissures. Vagina is the third of the ducts that form the internal genitalia of the female reproductive system. The vagina extends from the vestibule up to the uterus and is situated behind the bladder and in front of the rectum. The vagina is about 10 cm long and is directed upward and backward. Near its upper end, it surrounds the vaginal portion of the cervix, and at the back side, it receives the male penis during intercourse. The vagina consists of smooth muscles within an internal lining of mucous membrane that is continuous with that lining of the uterus. The vaginal lining has transverse ridges called rugae that are especially numerous near the external vaginal opening. The vagina has three core functions. It carries the female menstrual flow outside the body, receives the male penis during sexual intercourse, and serves as birth canal during labor.